My brother just texted me. Don't come home tonight. Trust me, stay away.
Disclaimer: the stories on Storyspill are inspired by real events, but some details, names, and identifying information have been changed to protect the privacy of the people involved. While we strive to keep the essence of the events true, certain parts may be dramatized or adapted to make the storytelling more engaging and entertaining for our viewers. All content is intended for entertainment purposes only. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Our goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of September, and your support will help us bring even more amazing stories to you. So let's start the story.
You ever get one of those texts that makes your stomach drop instantly? Like the kind that your brain doesn't even process right away, but your body just knows something's wrong? That was me at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday night. I was half a mile from home, walking back from a late hangout with a couple of friends. It wasn't a wild night, just beer, cheap pizza, and making fun of each other's Spotify playlists. The streets were quiet. My earbuds were in, and I was scrolling through my phone when I felt it vibrate in my hand. It was from my brother, Adam. Adam, don't come home tonight. Trust me, stay away. That was it. No context, no emoji, not even a PS or I'll explain later. I literally stopped walking mid-step. I read it again and again and again. My first thought was, is he joking? Because Adam does have a dry sense of humor. The kind where he'll mess with you just to see if you'll freak out. But this didn't feel like that. I texted back immediately. Me, what? Why? No reply. I called him. Straight to voicemail. Okay, weird. I texted again. Me. I'm like 5 minutes from home. Did something happen? Still nothing. Now, Adam isn't the type to ghost you when you're mid-conversation, especially not with something cryptic like stay away. He's my older brother by 5 years, and yeah, he can be overprotective sometimes, but he's never dramatic for no reason. I started walking again, slower this time. My apartment building was basically at the end of the street. I could see the faint glow of our porch light from where I stood. That's when my phone buzzed again. For a split second, I thought it was him. It wasn't. It was a notification from the Citizen app. Nearby incident. Police activity. Location, my street. The timestamp was literally 2 minutes ago. You know that icy feeling in your chest when your brain starts connecting dots you don't want connected? Yeah, that. I froze there on the sidewalk, heart thumping, staring at my street like it had just turned into a war zone. I couldn't hear anything yet, but that police activity tag wouldn't be there if it was just a parking ticket or something. I called Adam again, straight to voicemail. I thought about just going home anyway. I mean, I live there, my stuff's there. And if something's going on, wouldn't it be better to be inside rather than standing out here like a lost idiot? But then, why would Adam text me that? I remembered my friend Jake lived about 10 minutes away. We'd been close since high school, and he's the kind of guy who never locks his door. I sent him a quick text. Me, random, but can I crash at your place tonight? He replied almost instantly. Jake, LOL, sure. Couch is free. Bring beer if you have any. I didn't have beer, but I had paranoia and an increasingly bad feeling that I'd have to do. I turned around and started walking toward Jake's place instead of my street. I hadn't even made it a block before I heard the first siren. It started faint, like it was still far away but getting closer. Then another one, and another. By the time I reached the main road, I could see flashing blue and red lights bouncing off the buildings in the distance. My street was lit up like some kind of crime show set. I don't know what made me stop walking, but I did. I just stood there on the corner, watching the convoy of police cars speed past me and turn onto my street. 3 cars, 2 unmarked SUVs. My throat went dry. I made it to Jake's place in record time. I didn't even bother giving him the full explanation, just something going on at my place. Adam told me to stay away. We ended up sitting on his couch, the TV on low, while I obsessively refreshed Twitter, the Citizen app, anything that might give me a clue. At 12:23 a.m., a post popped up from a local crime TV scanner account. Scanner, reports of a disturbance at address, multiple units responding. Situation ongoing. That was my address. Jake looked at me like, you're not going back there, right? I shook my head. Not tonight. But here's the thing, when it's your home, your stuff, your memories in there. You can't just sit still. Every few minutes, I'd get up and pace. My mind kept trying to guess what disturbance meant. Break-in, robbery, someone hurt, my parents, my roommate, and Adam. Where the hell was Adam? It wasn't until about an hour later that I saw it, a blurry photo someone posted on Facebook. It was my street. Police tape everywhere, a couple of officers standing in front of my building, and in the background, a paramedic wheeling someone toward an ambulance. The caption just said, crazy night on street name. Anyone know what happened? I zoomed in on the photo, even though it was pixelated to hell. I couldn't tell who the person on the stretcher was. Could have been anyone. But my gut kept saying Adam. Jake tried to talk me out of going down there, but my brain had already crossed that line. I had to see it for myself. By the time I walked back toward my street, it was about 2 a.m. The flashing lights were still there, but fewer now. Most of the police cars had gone, and the street was eerily quiet, except for a couple of neighbors standing outside in their pajamas, whispering to each other. One of them, Mrs. Thompson, from 2 doors down, saw me and walked over. Don't go in there, honey, she said quietly. It's not safe. What happened? I asked. She glanced around before leaning in closer. I saw 2 strange men leaving your place earlier. Didn't recognize them. They weren't police. And that's when it hit me. Adam hadn't just told me to stay away for no reason. He'd been trying to keep me out of something dangerous. The sirens. The police tape. The strangers Mrs. Thompson saw. All of it was connected. I went back to Jake's place that night, but sleep wasn't even on the table. I just lay there, staring at my phone, waiting for a message or a call that never came. And somewhere between 3 and 4 a.m., the realization set in. Adam's text might have saved my life. Morning hit me like a hangover I didn't earn. I wasn't even sure I'd slept. I'd spent most of the night lying on Jake's couch staring at the ceiling, replaying Adam's text over and over in my head. Don't come home tonight. Trust me. Stay away. It didn't matter how many times I read it. It still felt like something from a bad movie, except this wasn't some Netflix thriller. This was my brother, my street, my life. By the time sunlight leaked through Jake's blinds, I was already scrolling my phone for updates. Nothing. The Citizen app had gone quiet. Twitter was dead on it. No news outlets had picked it up. And Adam, still no reply. I tried calling him again. Straight to voicemail. I tried my parents. Both went unanswered. That was when the panic really started to set in. Adam could ignore me for a night if he wanted to, but my mom, she calls me back if I even leave a voicemail saying, "Call me when you can." Jake must have sensed how tightly wound I was because he slid me a cup of coffee without saying a word. "You're gonna go down there, aren't you?" he finally asked. I didn't answer. I just grabbed my hoodie and keys. The walk back to my street felt surreal. Everything looked so normal in the morning light. People jogging, cars driving past, kids walking to school. But as soon as I turned the corner, reality hit. There it was, bright yellow police tape. It was stretched across the entire entrance to my block like some giant keep out banner. 2 uniformed officers stood at the barricade, chatting with clipboards in hand. Behind them, I could see my building front door wide open. Another officer standing in the doorway. I walked up to the barricade. "Hey, I live here," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What happened last night?" One of the officers held up a hand. "Sorry, can't let you through. Ongoing investigation." "Yeah, I get that, but..." "Sir, you'll have to step back." That sir wasn't friendly. It was the kind of sir that meant we're not telling you anything. Go away. I stepped back, but not far. That's when I saw her, Mrs. Thompson, my neighbor from 2 doors down. The one who'd warned me last night. She was standing on the sidewalk across the street, clutching her little dog like it was a stress ball. I crossed over to her. "You were out here last night, right?" I asked. She nodded slowly. "Couldn't sleep. All those lights, the noise, and then those men." "What men?" "2 of them," she said, lowering her voice like she thought the cops might hear. "Middle of the night. Not police. I've lived here 30 years. I know what's normal. They came out of your building fast. One had a duffel bag. Didn't look back." My stomach nodded. "Did you see where they went?" She shook her head. "They got into a dark SUV. No plates." "No plates. That wasn't random." I thanked her and started walking back toward my car, which I'd left parked on the next street over. That's when I remembered something. When I first moved into my place, Adam had insisted I keep a spare key and some emergency stuff in my glove box. At the time, I thought it was just him being overprepared, like always. I unlocked the car, opened the glove box, and froze. Inside, there was an envelope I'd never seen before. Plain white, sealed, with my name written across the front in Adam's handwriting. I just sat there for a second, staring at it like it might explode. My hands weren't exactly steady when I tore it open. Inside was a small brass key and a folded note. The note said, "If something happens to me, go to locker 312A. That was it. No explanation. No, don't freak out, or I'll be fine. Just those words. I stared at the key. It wasn't from my apartment. It wasn't from my car. It was small like a lockbox or storage locker key. Locker 312. Jake was still at work when I called him, so I just drove. I didn't even know where I was going at first. The only lockers I could think of were at the bus station downtown, the kind travelers use when they don't want to carry everything. I parked a few blocks away and walked the rest, the key burning a hole in my pocket. The bus station was half empty, a few travelers slumped in plastic chairs, a vending machine humming in the corner. The lockers lined one wall, numbered in neat rows. I found 312. My heart was pounding as I slid the key in and turned it. The lock clicked. Inside was a small duffel bag. I pulled it out and unzipped it just enough to peek inside. Cash, a stack of it, wrapped with rubber bands, and something else, a burner phone. I closed the bag fast, glancing over my shoulder. Nobody was watching, but my pulse was hammering like I'd just robbed the place. I didn't open the phone right there. Instead, I zipped the bag back up, locked the locker again, and walked outside, pretending I was just some guy killing time. Once I was in my car with the doors locked, I powered on the burner phone. It lit up instantly, no password. There were messages. Unread ones. From a contact saved only as K. The most recent one was from the night before. K. They're on their way. Keep them away from the house. The one before that. K. Tonight is the night. Don't let them near MC's name. I just sat there, staring at the screen. Don't let them near me. Who the hell was them? Who was K? And what the hell had Adam gotten himself into? I didn't know if Adam was the victim here, or if he was tangled up in something way darker. But one thing was for sure, I wasn't going to get answers sitting in my car. And I had a feeling locker 312 was only the beginning. You'd think finding cash and a burner phone in a random locker your brother told you about would be the weirdest part of your week. But no, that was just the appetizer. Because when I went back to locker hash 312 the next morning after not sleeping again, I found more. See, here's the thing. Last night, I was too rattled to dig deeper into the duffel bag. I saw the cash, saw the phone, and thought, okay, Adam's into some shady stuff. Let's just not get murdered in a bus station parking lot right now. But now I was ready to actually go through it. I unlocked the locker again, pulled the bag out, and carried it to a quiet corner of the station where nobody was paying attention to me. First, the cash. It wasn't just some cash, it was a lot. $20 bills mostly, rubber banded into stacks. I didn't count it right there, but I knew it was thousands. Next, the burner phone. Still there, still no lock on it. And the messages from K were exactly as I saw before. K, they're on their way. Keep them away from the house. K, tonight is the night. Don't let them near my name. I scrolled further back. There were older messages, stuff like K, stop asking questions in person. K, if you want out, there's a way, but it's risky. And one that made my blood run cold. K, if they get to my name, it's over. That was bad enough. But then I found the other items in the bag. First, a small black flash drive, no label, no markings. Second, a photograph. It was of me and Adam when we were kids, maybe 8 and 13, sitting in our old backyard. I remembered that day. It was summer. We'd just finished building a treehouse with Dad. But in the background, someone was standing near the fence. A man. I didn't recognize him. He wasn't looking at the camera, but his head was tilted just enough that I could see his face in partial profile. I couldn't explain why, but it made me uneasy. I knew I couldn't just plug the flash drive into my own laptop. For all I knew, it was loaded with viruses or something illegal that'd have the FBI kicking down my door. And that's when I thought of Riley. Riley was an old friend from college, the kind of friend you only text when you need help with something that involves technology, security, or bending the rules a little. He'd been a computer science major, and now he freelanced doing cybersecurity consulting, which I always assumed was code for sometimes hacks people for money. If anyone could safely see what was on this flash drive, it was him. I called him. He picked up on the second ring. Yo, he said, his voice groggy. You still alive? That's debatable, I said. You busy today? Not if you're paying me. I'll buy you lunch. Depends what lunch is. Riley, it's urgent. That woke him up. What kind of urgent? The kind where I have a flash drive I'm afraid to open. He sighed. All right, bring it over. But if you're dragging me into something illegal, I want plausible deniability. Don't worry, I said automatically, even though I couldn't promise that. So, 20 minutes later, I was at his apartment, which, for the record, looked exactly the same as it had in college, just with slightly better furniture and a lot more empty coffee cups. He waved me in, already booting up one of his 3 monitors. All right, he said, holding out his hand. Gimme. I passed him the flash drive. He didn't even plug it in right away. First, he ran it through some kind of device that looked like a tiny computer in itself. Checking for malware, he explained. Last thing I need is for this thing to nuke my system. While we waited, I filled him in on the short version. The text from Adam, the police at my house, the locker, the phone messages from Kay. I didn't mention the man in the photograph yet. That felt too personal. Dude, Riley said when I finished, this is sketchy. Like, really sketchy. You sure you want to keep poking around? Adam's missing, I said. I don't exactly have the option to ignore it. The malware scan came back clean, so Riley finally plugged the flash drive into an isolated offline laptop. At first, it looked empty, just a single folder labeled photos. But inside that folder were dozens of files, all password protected. He smirked. Classic amateur encryption. Give me 5 minutes. It took him 3. The folder exploded into a mess of documents, scanned receipts, emails, and images. Most of it was mundane, but some wasn't. One PDF was a scanned police report from 15 years ago, a missing persons case. A man named Lucas Kane. Another file was a grainy surveillance still, Adam, just a few weeks ago, meeting someone in a parking lot and handing them a backpack. Then there were bank statements, wire transfers from accounts I didn't recognize, large amounts, and one folder simply titled Dad. I felt my stomach twist. I told Riley to open it. Inside were more documents, some with our father's name on them. One looked like a background check, another was a news clipping from the early 2000s about a local business owner questioned in connection with disappearance. The business owner was my dad. Riley leaned back in his chair. Your brother's been doing some serious digging, and it looks like your dad's been into some deep, dark crap for a long time. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to slam the laptop shut and pretend I'd never seen any of this. But another part, the bigger part, wanted every single answer. I finally told Riley about the photograph the man in the background I didn't recognize. I pulled it out of the duffel bag and handed it to him. He scanned it into his computer, zoomed in, and ran it through some kind of facial recognition software he had. It took a while, but when a result finally popped up, it wasn't some random stranger. It was Lucas Kane, the missing person from the police report. I felt my pulse in my ears. Riley looked at me seriously. Whatever your brother was into, it wasn't small time. And if these messages from Kay are real, it sounds like you might be in danger too. I wanted to argue, but then my burner phone, the one from the locker, started buzzing. Unknown number, I answered. Hello? A distorted voice said. If you want to see your brother again, stop looking. Click. I don't think I blinked for a full 30 seconds after Riley leaned back in her chair, cracked her knuckles, and said, all right, I'm in. I'd been pacing her tiny apartment for over an hour while she worked, the sound of her mechanical keyboard clacking away, mixed with the occasional sip from her oversized mug of black coffee. Riley always worked like she was in the middle of a hacker movie fast, intense, eyes narrowed at the screen like it had personally insulted her. You're telling me this thing was locked with a triple-layer encryption? She said, swiveling to look at me. Your brother wasn't hiding cat videos? Whatever's on here, it's the kind of stuff people disappear over. Her words made the hairs on my neck stand up. I moved closer as she opened the first folder on the flash drive. Documents. Hundreds of them. PDFs, scanned papers, notes written in blocky typeface. Some were official police reports, court documents, internal memos. Others were clearly more personal typed letters, journal entries. And then I saw it. The name. My father's name. At first, I thought maybe it was a coincidence. A common name. But then I saw the address on the document, the one I grew up in. Riley. What the hell is this? I whispered. She didn't answer right away. She was scanning the text with that deep, focused frown she always got when she was reading something important. These are police files, she finally said, her voice low, and they're about a missing persons case, 15 years ago. Ring any bells? I shook my head. No, I was just a kid then. Riley tapped the screen. Well, according to this, your father was a person of interest. But she scrolled further. He was never charged. The case went cold. I felt like the room was shrinking around me. My father had never been the kind of man to talk about the past. In fact, the older I got, the more I realized how much of his life before me was a blank slate. And now, here it was, staring me in the face in black and white. Do you want the bad news, Riley said, or the worst news? Just hit me with all of it, I muttered, rubbing my temples. She clicked into another folder labeled media. There were only 2 files inside. One was a low-quality surveillance video, the other a password-protected document. She opened the video first. It was grainy, time-stamped about 3 weeks ago, shot from what looked like a security camera in a parking lot. The image flickered, then stabilized enough for me to make out 2 figures. One of them was Adam. My heart jumped into my throat. He was pacing, looking around nervously, until a second figure approached from the shadows. They exchanged a few words I couldn't hear, and then Adam pulled something from under his jacket, a black backpack. He handed it over. The second figure took it, nodded once, and walked away. That's not good, Riley said flatly. Who is that other guy? I asked. Riley rewound the footage, zooming in as far as the low resolution would allow. The stranger's face was partially obscured by a hood, but I could make out a jagged scar running from his eyebrow to his cheek. I'd never seen him before. Riley sat back, chewing her lip. This has all the hallmarks of an organized drop. That backpack wasn't filled with textbooks, if you know what I mean. I stared at the frozen frame of Adam on the screen. He didn't look scared, but he didn't look safe either. Before I could even process my next thought, my phone, the one I'd been ignoring since we started, this began to buzz on the table. Unknown number. I hesitated, then picked up. Hello? There was silence for a beat and then a voice, low, measured, completely unfamiliar. If you want to see your brother again, the voice said, stop looking. I froze. Who is this? But they had already hung up. Riley was staring at me now, wide-eyed. What did they say? I swallowed hard. They know. It was the first moment since Adam vanished that I was certain of one thing. He hadn't just run away. He'd been taken. And now I was in the middle of something I didn't understand, something that clearly had rules. Rules I'd just broken. If I'm being honest, I didn't even sleep that night. Not because I wasn't tired, my body felt like it had been through a meat grinder, but because my brain refused to slow down. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Adam's face, or the grainy security footage of him in that parking lot, handing off a backpack to some shadowy figure like it was nothing. And then there was a voice on the phone. If you want to see your brother again, stop looking. Yeah. Like that was going to happen. The problem was, I didn't have a clue where to even start looking. That's when I remembered the burner phone. Riley and I had pulled from the box in Adam's apartment. We'd already gone through some of the texts, but there were still a few we hadn't decrypted. Riley, being Riley, had been working on it in the background while I was busy spiraling into emotional chaos. Around 4 a.m., she sent me a screenshot, a partially decoded address, a storage unit. The number matched one of the unsent draft messages on the burner phone. It wasn't much, but it was the first breadcrumb we'd had since the flash drive. By sunrise, I was already at Riley's place, running on 3 cups of coffee and stubbornness. She opened the door, hair a mess, hoodie half-zipped, looking at me like she'd been expecting this exact level of reckless energy. You're not going there alone, she said before I even spoke. I wasn't planning to, I lied. You were totally planning to. She was right. I was 100% planning to. The storage facility was the kind of place you only see in crime shows or late-night pawn shop commercials. Rusty gate, chain-link fence, a keypad entry system that looked like it hadn't been updated since 2002. The guy in the office barely looked up from his phone when we walked in. Unit number? He grunted. I gave him the one from Riley's screenshot, half expecting him to ask for ID. He didn't. Just handed me a clipboard, like I was signing for a pizza, which was weird. The unit itself was in the far back, right against the fence. I could smell the dust and mildew before we even opened it. Riley stood to the side, holding a small crowbar like it was both a weapon and a universal problem solver. When the door rattled up, I froze. Inside wasn't just the usual pile of old furniture and cardboard boxes. It was organized, meticulously. On one side, there were metal shelves stacked with plastic bins, each labeled with dates. On the other, a heavy-duty duffel bag sat on a folding table next to a laptop and an external hard drive. Riley went straight for the bins. I went for the bag. Inside the duffel, bundles of cash. Not huge amounts, but enough to make me wonder why Adam had it hidden here instead of in a bank. Fake IDs. Not just one or two, a whole stack. Some had Adam's face. Some didn't. A small black notebook with a list of names. I flipped through it until my eyes landed on one I recognized. Mine. You need to see this, Riley said. I walked over, notebook in hand, and she showed me what she'd found in one of the bins, a manila folder with my dad's name written in bold marker. Inside were photos, newspaper clippings, police reports. It was like Adam had been running his own private investigation for years. And it wasn't just about the missing persons case from 15 years ago. It was about Dad. The deeper I read, the colder I felt. Adam had been tracking people who'd vanished. People who'd all had some kind of connection to our father's old business deals. I didn't know whether to feel grateful or betrayed. Then Riley froze. "You hear that?" she whispered. I did. Footsteps. Heavy ones. The sound of the metal latch outside clicking shut. Two guys stepped into the unit before I could react. Big, heavy set. One of them wearing a leather jacket, the other in a baseball cap pulled low. "You shouldn't be here," leather jacket said. "No kidding," I muttered, glancing at Riley. Before I could say anything else, baseball cap lunged. Riley swung the crowbar and caught him in the arm, which only bought us 2 seconds. Leather jacket shoved me hard into the shelves, sending a bin of papers crashing to the ground. I scrambled up, grabbed the duffel bag without thinking, and bolted for the door, except it was blocked. So I went sideways instead, ducking under baseball cap's arm, Riley right behind me. We didn't make it far before one of them grabbed the strap of the duffel, yanking me backwards so hard I nearly lost my footing. I did the only thing I could think of, swung the bag like a bat. The guy grunted and let go, giving me enough room to shove past him and sprint for the exit. Riley was already fumbling with the keypad at the gate, swearing under her breath. The second it buzzed, we slipped through and didn't stop running until we were 3 blocks away. We finally ducked into a back alley, both of us gasping for breath. "That was not a coincidence," Riley panted. "No," I said, tightening my grip on the duffel. "Someone knew we were coming, which meant they're watching us," she finished. Back at her apartment, we dumped the bag and went through it piece by piece. Everything in it painted a clearer and more dangerous picture. Adam wasn't just investigating Dad. He was working against people who had every reason to make him disappear. And now they knew I was involved. Riley looked at me with this mix of frustration and fear. "You need to decide," she said. "Do we take this to the police knowing they might be in on it, or do we try to find Adam ourselves?" It should have been an easy choice, but it wasn't. Because for the first time since this started, I was sure of one thing. Adam didn't just walk away. He was taken. And if I made the wrong move, I might be next. You ever get to that point in your life where the truth finally comes out and you wish it hadn't? Yeah, that was me, standing in my mom's living room, with my chest tight and my hands shaking like I'd just walked out of a car crash. I'd gone into this whole thing thinking Adam, my older brother, was just keeping secrets for the sake of being a mysterious pain in my ass. That maybe he'd been tangled in something shady of his own doing. But the lead I followed last chapter, the one from the burner phone that led to the storage unit, they changed everything. Fake IDs, stacks of cash, a list of names, including mine. And Adam had been investigating. Not some random criminal, but our own dad. And now I had to hear it from the one person who'd always told me she'd never lie to me, my mom. She was sitting on the couch when I got there, a mug of coffee in her hands, but she wasn't drinking it. She was just holding it like she needed it to keep her grounded. Her hair was pulled back, face pale, eyes red, like she'd been crying for a while already. "Mom," I said, and even just saying her name came out like it had weight on it. "I need you to tell me everything. No dodging. No, it's complicated. No protecting me. Just the truth." Her lips trembled. I was hoping you'd never have to know. That ship sailed the second Adam vanished. I snapped, more harshly than I intended. She set the mug down, hands trembling. "Your father..." She took a breath that looked like it physically hurt. "He used to work for people. Bad people." "What people?" She hesitated, like she was about to edit the story to make it cleaner, but she saw my face and stopped. "A crime syndicate. They handled money, drugs, weapons. He wasn't a killer, at least I don't think he was, but he knew things. Too much." I didn't sit. I couldn't. My brain was doing backflips, trying to piece this together with the man I knew growing up. The one who taught me how to throw a baseball, who'd grill burgers in the backyard, who'd smile like everything in the world was fine. "How long?" I asked. "Before you were born. Before Adam was even old enough to understand." "What happened?" She swallowed hard. "There was a deal. Something went wrong. Your father betrayed them. I don't know the details. He never told me everything, but I know people died. Important people. And he walked away, thinking he could just disappear." My voice cracked. "And they came after us?" Her eyes filled. "They never forgot. Years passed, but the kind of people your father crossed, they don't let go. They waited, watched. And Adam, he found out. Years ago." I stumbled back a step. "Adam knew?" She nodded. "He started looking into them, quietly at first. He was terrified they'd come for you. They almost did. Once," my stomach flipped, "the break-in, that night, when you told me it was just some kids," she covered her mouth with her hand, like if she didn't, she might scream. "It wasn't kids, honey. It was a kidnapping attempt. They were coming for you. Adam intercepted them. I don't know how, but he got them to follow him instead." I felt cold. I mean, cold. Like the blood in my veins had been replaced with ice water. "And you didn't tell me?" What would I have said? That you couldn't leave the house without looking over your shoulder? That your brother was living every day like he was already marked? Her voice broke. "I was trying to protect you." My hands curled into fists, not at her, but at the entire situation. All the lies, all the danger I didn't even know I'd been in. And Adam, all this time, he'd been running interference for me, taking the heat. Do you know where he is now? I asked, already knowing the answer was probably going to gut me. She shook her head. The last time I heard from him, he said he was safe but scared. He didn't want to tell me where. I think he was afraid they'd use me to find him. Riley, who'd been standing just behind me, spoke up for the first time. We've got something, she said, holding up her phone. Remember the cabin we talked about? The one Adam rented under a fake name 2 years ago? The rental records pinged again last week. Same payment method, same pattern. My mom's eyes widened. He's there, or someone is, Riley said. I turned to my mom. You need to stay here. Lock the doors. Don't answer for anyone but me or Riley, and if anything feels off, anything, you call 911. Even if the cops are compromised, it's better than nothing. Her hand grabbed mine. Please bring him home. The drive to the cabin was long and silent. Riley was at the wheel, eyes fixed on the dark stretch of road ahead, and I was staring at the burner phone on my lap like it might suddenly light up with a message from Adam saying, "Hey, I'm fine. Turn around." But no, nothing. Just dead air. The GPS signal flickered in and out as we got deeper into the woods. The last stretch wasn't even paved, just a dirt trail that rattled the car and made it feel like we were leaving civilization entirely behind. It doesn't feel like a coincidence, Riley muttered. Guy disappears for months, then suddenly there's activity at his hideout right after you start digging. Either he's trying to reach you, or someone's trying to lure you in. Great, I said. So it's either a rescue mission or we're walking straight into a trap. We reached the turnoff and killed the headlights, letting the car roll the last 50 yards under the cover of darkness. The cabin sat at the edge of a clearing, one dim light glowing in a back window. I scanned the tree line. See anything? Riley shook her head. Too quiet. We approached on foot, every twig snap under my boots sounding like a gunshot in my ears. I kept my hand near the knife I'd taken from the storage unit, because at this point, I didn't care how insane it made me look. When we reached the porch, I motioned for Riley to stay low while I tried the handle. Unlocked. That was either a good sign or a very, very bad one. The smell hit me first. Wood smoke, stale coffee, and something else. Something metallic. Adam? I whispered, stepping inside. No answer. The main room was cluttered. Papers scattered across the table, maps pinned to the wall, red string connecting names I didn't recognize, and there, right in the center, was a photo of me. My throat tightened. Riley, he was still looking for them. Even here. But then, movement, a shadow shifting in the hallway. I turned just in time to see a figure step out, and I swear my heart almost stopped. I swear my hands have never gripped a steering wheel so tight in my life. Riley kept glancing at me like he was ready to take over if I veered off the road, but my eyes were locked on the GPS dot blinking on the screen. Adam's last known location. A cabin in the middle of nowhere. Perfect place for someone to vanish forever. The road narrowed until it wasn't much more than a dirt track. The kind that looked like it hadn't seen a car in weeks. The trees pressed in on both sides, branches clawing at the paint as we pushed forward. My stomach churned, but not from fear. Alone, it was a sickening cocktail of dread, adrenaline, and the crushing knowledge that this was my last shot to make things right with Adam. When Mom had told me everything, the truth about Dad, about the crime syndicate, about how Adam had been trying to protect me all along, it had knocked the air out of me. I'd spent years thinking Adam was just this distant, overprotective older brother. Turns out he'd been the shield between me and a whole storm I didn't even know existed. And now that shield was somewhere ahead, bleeding, maybe dying. We didn't talk much during the drive. Riley had one hand on his gun the entire time, the other scrolling through the flash drive Adam had given me, the one that had almost gotten him killed. This is big, Riley muttered, eyes flicking over the files. Bank transfers, offshore accounts, names of people who make the FBI look like mall cops. And your dad? He's in deep. Like, lifetime in prison deep. I didn't respond. My throat was too tight. The GPS pinged. We're close, I said, my voice sounding smaller than I wanted it to. We rolled to a stop just short of a clearing. The cabin was there. Small, weathered. The kind of place you'd expect a hunter to use in the off-season. Except there was a black SUV parked outside, and two men in dark jackets smoking near the porch. Armed, Riley whispered, already assessing. We need a plan. We use the flash drive, I said, before I could second guess it. Riley frowned. How? They want leverage. We tell them we'll hand over the only copy, but only if they let Adam walk out. That's risky as hell. Yeah, but Adam risked everything for me. I'm not walking away now. We crept closer, using the tree line as cover until we were within shouting distance. Riley cupped his hand around his mouth and called out, "We've got something you want." The guard's head snapped up instantly. Hands went to guns. I stepped out into the open, holding up a small USB stick. This is the only copy. Let him go and it's yours. They didn't move right away, probably deciding whether to just shoot me and take it. Then the door to the cabin creaked open. Adam, he looked like hell. One eye swollen shut, shirt torn, blood staining the side of his face. But he was alive. One of the guards barked something toward the doorway in a language I didn't recognize. Another man stepped out taller, cleaner, wearing a smirk like he was already winning. "You must be the little brother," he said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were cold. "Hand it over." "Let him walk first," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. The man chuckled. "You think you're in a position to negotiate?" I know you can't afford to kill me, I shot back. This drive has everything. Every dirty deal, every name. If I don't check in with someone in the next 10 minutes, it goes public. That part was a lie, mostly, but he didn't need to know that. The smirk faded just enough to tell me I'd hit a nerve. He jerked his chin toward one of the guards. Bring him. Adam stumbled forward, leaning heavily on the man's grip. My chest tightened, seeing him like that. This was a guy who'd always seemed unbreakable. Now, barely able to stand. When he was halfway to me, the guard holding him suddenly shoved him hard toward the ground. Adam landed in a heap at my feet. Your turn, the tall man said, holding out his hand. Riley stepped forward like he was going to make the exchange, but in that exact second, I caught Adam's eye. He gave the faintest shake of his nod to his head. It was all I needed. Riley tossed the flash drive toward the man, a perfect arc, and in that heartbeat of distraction, Adam rolled to the side, pulling something from his jacket, a flare gun. The bright red burst lit up the clearing, and within seconds, sirens wailed in the distance. The tall man cursed, shouting orders, but it was too late. Black SUVs, different ones this time, with flashing lights barreled into the clearing. Armed agents poured out, shouting commands. These weren't Dad's people. These were the ones Adam had contacted the real law. In the chaos, 2 of the kidnappers bolted into the woods. Others dropped their weapons and hit the dirt, and then they dragged Dad out of the cabin. He didn't look surprised, just resigned. They cuffed him without ceremony. One of the agents read him his rights while he stared straight at me. No shame, no apology. Just this cold, empty expression like I was nothing to him. Adam leaned against Riley, breathing hard. Took you long enough? He rasped, but there was a faint smile there. I crouched beside him. You're alive. That's all that matters. Not all, he said, glancing toward Dad being shoved into the back of a car. Now you know everything. No more lies. The aftermath was a blur statements, medical checks, being told I might have to testify. By the time it was over, the cabin was swarming with investigators and Adam was in an ambulance. We didn't say much on the ride to the hospital. Didn't need to. 2 days later, I got a text. No coordinates, no coded warnings, just 5 words. You're safe now, Adam. I stared at it for a long time. My thumb hovered over the keyboard to type something back, but I stopped. Because even as relief settled over me, I couldn't shake the feeling. Somewhere out there in the shadows Adam had been fighting to keep me out of. Someone else was still watching.